Hello, hello, hello. My name is Nate Rasa, and welcome back to I Just Can't Even With Myself Right Now, my personal pet project podcast where I discuss absolutely anything that comes to mind, because limits are for losers, and in my space, we follow the wind. So sit back, tense up, and enjoy NE Unleashed. And as always, live it up, folks, and make it happen. Alright, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just jump in. So a good suggestion I got from Leans again, hey Leans, shout out to you, was talking about let's just have a 7 episode, the type 7 people. And why? Because, well, I am a type 7, so why not? I think there's just a lot for me to wrap my head around when it comes to babbling about sevens, frankly, because it's going to be such a selfish talk. There's self-referencing types. So what ends up happening is I'm going to enjoy talking about myself a lot, or pretty much make everything about me, which I try not to overly do that, because I don't really want to let that person know that I'm literally just monologuing. But I feel like this kind of medium allows is more forgiving in that sense. But anyways, 7, what am I talking about? I am talking about Enneagram, personality system theories. So Enneagram is the system where there are 9 different types, and it's all labeled as numbers, and there's an interconnectedness with each one of them based on its position in the diagram and where they are when it comes to things like coping mechanisms, what fears you're going through, how do you deal with anger, shame. It's 9 divided by 3 kind of type of information. And I know I'm speeding along through it because I am a 7, so it's just going to be quick. No, just because the reason I really want to talk about is what makes a 7 a 7. I remembered listening to a podcast where they discussed 7s, and I think it was really, really good to hear from another person how they interpreted and how they understood 7s as people. And the coping mechanisms, when I first got into Enneagram, I thought I was just doing what I was doing, and I didn't realize that I had a strategy in place that came in ever since I was a kid. And knowing that I tend to rationalize and I tend to kind of run away from fear because I'm actually afraid of being afraid, were kind of mind-blowing in that moment when I had that, because I was going, I never realized that this was a thing, that this is what I did. And I just thought that I was just doing the way I was supposed to, or I was just being, by following the wind, that I'm just that kind of free spirit type. I mean, I've been described by my friends as a free spirit type, a little bit of a wild card kind of personality. But there's a lot of kind of concepts that I don't necessarily show to people. And frankly, because I don't really see the reason to, and I don't see the point in dealing with negative emotions for too long. Part of that is actually kind of a struggle for me, because negative emotions, I'm saying this because it's my life is cut out for me at this point, my work at least, because I know where I need to develop myself. I lack a very strong internal dialogue, because I don't really think of finding solutions from within. I don't see that as necessary. I feel like my solutions, I can always get it outside of me. So I'm kind of aggressive when I want to seek out information. I want it to be usable right away. I don't like just sitting there and not, and just ruminating on a subject. It doesn't make sense to me. A lot of the times I have to be constantly in motion to get that information processed. I feel like it's kind of the whole, kind of like a machine. It has to be moving. There has to be some kind of kinesthetic, kinetic kind of motion going on if I were to actually develop anything, because I don't have that kind of chill vibe. Even though I look kind of chill, sometimes I do look chill, but I would say mostly I come off very wild. 7s are typically told or described as the optimistic type, and I would say it's true by default, because we are optimistic by literally removing or deluding ourselves into ignoring the negative things in our lives. And why I do that, like why I delete the negative things, because I think it's a waste of time. I can't just like sit there and, like I mentioned before, like I can't just sit there and just take it. It doesn't make sense to me. If I were to just sit there and take it, I might as well be dead, if that makes sense. And it kind of goes over into my perception of death as well. I feel like that's just a time of rest where I can finally lie down and rest because I did my job, or I did my best. And I don't know how other sevens feel about that. I know that with me, I don't like dealing with it, but I'm not against talking about it, if that makes sense. The concept of death, I know I mentioned in a previous episode, aging has no problem for me. Like, I've completely rationalized that whole concept, because to me, age is just a number, and there's so much to do in the world that it's just not enough. And so I'm not going to lock myself into just, I'm just going to be energetic in the 20s. I'm like, no, life is still going to keep going. Whatever chapter comes forward, I will still have something to do. And boredom is a bane of my existence. I don't like being bored. If I'm like sitting there and lying there and not doing anything, it's frustrating. I don't know why, why I can't, like why I have to like sit. It doesn't make sense. And it's probably funny how, when it comes to choosing jobs, like a lot of my employment jobs happen to be physical, which I didn't really process properly until now. See, I don't do long self-reflections. It doesn't work for me in that sense. Usually just sit there and then I'll have like a thought pop in and be, hey, so you've never taken a non-physical job. And I'm going, I really did it. That's interesting. And it's true. I really haven't. Let's see, I'm trying to look back at my employment history. I did start with fast food, but I took on, like, I did volunteering for welding. I did, because that was my dad's shop. And then I did, what else did I do? I was a fire tech for a bit, where I inspected people's homes and tested for fire alarms and, like, with extinguishers, etc. I was a janitor for a bit. And I did like upholstery and construction, as volunteer work, because helped out with the community for a bit. And right now I'm in the shipping department. Like, it's just, I've never really enjoyed full-on office job. Like, I remembered I was to sit down and take a course where I had to like go through a video, like a sequence of videos, and then take kind of a quick exam afterwards, to pass and then be eligible to continue on with the job. And I got so frustrated because one of the bosses asked me, he's like, how you doing? And I'm like, I kind of just want to end it. Like, I just want to die, if that makes sense. And she's like, why? And I'm going, because I'm sitting there just watching a person babble, which is ironic because I'm doing that right now. But they're babbling, but it's about something like long information that could have been distilled into simple information, if that makes sense. I didn't think it was necessary for me to hear the life story of this one person, because I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to grab that information and then use it right away. Like, I don't need to. And I absorb information really quickly. Like, it's not hard, if that makes sense. It's not hard for me to like grasp and be like, oh, well then right away, because I want it to be usable right away. I don't want to be able to sit here and not have info. What's crazy is there's an insecurity actually related to that. I do feel that I don't have all the information, and it's annoying that I feel like I have to keep continuously consuming info, because but it'll never be enough. Like, it feels like I'm in this loop of constantly consuming and never actually settling anywhere. And it fits because the vice of sevens is gluttony. So there's like this thing where contentment is such a foreign concept to me. Even though I know that that's the answer, it's so hard to apply in my life. What kind of seven? I'm a self-pres seven. I actually earlier in life, I actually thought I say earlier in life, but actually, when I first got into the Enneagram system, I actually thought it was an SX7, like SXSP or something like that. There was such a big kind of problem with the descriptions and people relating to the wrong thing, leading to a lot of mistypes, and I was one of those people. And when I finally got to and got I would say not, yeah, I would say a formal typing. Let's put it that way. From a good friend of mine, the Enneagram Queen. You know who you are. I finally got to realize that no, I'm actually an SP Dom, and my second variant is social, and I'm an SX blind. So I did talk about SX blinds in a previous episode, so that was a fun one. But like being an SP7, and I read the descriptions, and it finally like hit me, going, "Oh no, this is me." And why is because at least with me, I know I struggle with like the spiritual aspect of a lot of things. Because of how, I guess it's just how I am with life, like, and how I move forward, I move around, being the way that I am. It almost kind of leaves no room to process things on a spiritual meditative level. I feel like that's definitely a side of an angle of me that I kind of disregard. Even though I'm really active in my own religious pursuits, I feel like I have to do that to compensate for my lack of it in a weird kind of way. And probably it's not exactly weird. It's just, another way to cope without it. I would say that without folks outside giving me the spiritual kind of guidance and teaching, like, I don't think I'd be able to settle, or be able to even be open to the concept of contentment if I hadn't embraced it in some way, which is pretty cool. Like, I'll give it that. But yeah, like SP7s are described as like materialistic, and it's funny because they say like the playboy hedonistic type, and it's funny because I like to drown myself in I like collecting vices, if that makes sense. And obviously I'm not going to list out all my vices, but it's definitely something where I'll just pick up a bad habit every now and then, only because it helps me deal with the negativity in life. Like, it just like the one I know that I definitely have stuck with for a while, and have been working on is the drinking, and working on as in I've been trying to maintain stability with that, because I love alcohol, and I really do. I love the taste of it. I love everything about it, but I would say I am worried about the negative effects of it. And it's funny because like as a 7, it's almost not like, it's almost such an easy way. It's an easy drug on it. But at the same time, like, thank goodness for life being able to teach me that, I can enjoy things in moderation and should be fine. Oh, I don't know if everyone like listening here would be able to catch me rationalizing constantly, because I do a lot. It's a big sure sign of 7s. Like, I know with me, like, I have this situation where if things are going bad, like, for example, if I feel like I look at my bank account and things are just not going too well, and I just like look down and go, well, at least I still have a leg. I still have all my toes. I still got, like, I don't have any chest hair. Like, it's things aren't that bad. And it's like completely unrelated to the concept, but because I had something that I could feel good about it, I'm going, oh, okay, I feel good about it. I remembered when I was in such a really tough spot and started crying because of it, but I couldn't last the crying. I actually felt embarrassed and annoyed with myself that I actually let out emotions. I was like, oh, I leaked. Like, my eyes are leaking. What is this? I'm feeling. And it's funny because I'm switching over to MBTI, like, as an ENFP, like, I like to encourage people to express their feelings and to accept, all of them, and yet I can't, like, apply that advice for myself. I'm going, wait, but I'm not allowing myself to do that. Like, that's weird. But yeah, that's the contradictions as a 7. It's just hilarious. Energy is, I would say, the best way to describe me energetically wise, or yeah, I'm not using the correct words. Definitely electricity kicks in very easy. I'm that type of person that when you say, hey, let's go here, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Because the actual act of going out and going adventures is so much more enticing to me than the opposite. I love, like, I understand, like, the quality time, sitting with your friend, doing all that stuff, but I'd rather do something with you, if that makes sense. Like, I'd rather go out and make something happen. So usually I remember back in when I was starting my early 20s and, I got my car and then everything's just kind of like flowing well, I would end up just kind of traveling all over the city because I couldn't just sit in my home. Like, that was just unacceptable. So, like, I would explore downtown a lot. I used to be a barista, so my boss used to actually get us on coffee hopping. Yeah, coffee hops. And what it is where you hop on different coffee shops in a day. So let's say you hit up maybe 3 or 4 shops in a day and you guys do a taste test. You try to judge the flavor of the coffee through whatever they offer in the moment, and then see like the differences and how different roasters kind of do their own thing, and then get the kind of personality of each shop at the same time. So of course, increase your palate and everything. And I thought that was really interesting because I got to collect all this information in real time, and at the same time, I also have lots of potential dates for anybody who wants to, be like, hey, I want to get coffee. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly where we need to go. Same thing with restaurants. Like, I'm such a big foodie. I love exploring all these things. I love exploring like the hidden little parts. Like, I remembered going to the super authentic Japanese restaurant here, and they're like, you swallow a raw egg kind of sushi kind of thing. It was like so interesting, and then everyone's like, oh, but wouldn't you get salmonella because it's raw? And I'm like, I know, right? But life's for risk. And then you just take a good and then you're in. That was what, like 2 years ago? So technically I'm still okay, right? It's like, the effects don't happen till 5 years. I'm like, okay, well, in 5 years I'll deal with it. Oh man, and there's also like, I've done a beer taste test, which is fantastic. I like learning where my preferences lie. I like learning where I get to enjoy, like, pleasures of life. I feel like when people say, do you work first, play later, or play first, then work later, I can't seem to see work as not play, if that makes sense. Ever since I was a kid, my mom taught me to apply music when I clean. So nowadays, I can't not clean without music. Like, I have to have some form of stimulation that is enjoyable, that can give, that also kind of enhances or amplifies, augments, I guess, my energy, and allows me to be more effective. I know driving, I can't drive without music. I always require some kind of fun in going on. So when people ask me at work, they're like, are you having fun? Or do you like your job? I always tell them afterwards that that's the wrong question to ask me, because the answer will always be yes. There's never been a job I didn't enjoy. And I really mean that. Like, even my job as a fire tech, I enjoyed every bit of it. There are tough times. Actually, hold up. There are tough times in that job. It's a very hard, there's a demanding aspect to it. But I enjoyed it. Like, the hard work was fun, if that makes sense. Sometimes you had to go up like 30 feet because you need to. But you got to go up 30 feet and you got to see the world around you. Like, what's the big deal with that? You got to drive in the snow, but then you got to meet more new people. So what was the holdup? Right? You get to have a really good conversation with your coworker about like the meaning of life, which you could only got if you went out that day and did it. So why wouldn't you go out and make it happen? I feel like the world will miss you by if you don't do something. So you have to do it. And like, I just feel like that's so important sometimes. It's funny because I actually had a moment where I thought, like, what if I'm social dom and I'm not SB dom? And I kept thinking because I do experience the fear of missing out, but it's not so strong. So I don't know, like, other social sevens, if you guys are listening, like, how are you guys doing this? Because I do tell people, like, first up as a disclaimer, that I'm incredibly selfish in like first hit. Like, I think that's the first impression people take, because I do take things to myself more. If I don't like something, I just leave, because I don't really see the big deal. Because again, it's not, and I said this before on Twitter, it's not me missing out, it's you missing out on me. So, and I don't know how people are going to take that statement, like if they take it negatively, if they take it positively. It's just that to me, I use that statement to cope, because reality is kind of like, I understand reality is difficult. I really do get that. I get that it's not always forgiving, but it's funny because I try to say something serious, but for some reason my voice is just going to be in a good tone. Am I nervous? Probably not. I don't know. Like, it's just one of those things. So you just kind of like just take it. I don't know. It's kind of funny to me that this is like my deal right now. But yeah, like, because I know reality is hard, I know that I have to kind of say no to a lot of different things, and it's fine. I really don't mind that, actually. I don't mind kind of the situation. It's weird. I give off that vibe where, like, at least from how I noticed it, I give off this vibe like I'm like getting people to be tempted, getting people to give in to their vices and their pleasures in life, because I really do believe that life is empty without some form of energy, some form of injection of action and activity, because without it, I feel like it's not enough. And that's always going to be a thing with me. I think, I don't know with eights if I relate to you guys, or if you guys relate to me in that sense, where just a feeling of it's just not enough. But yeah, like, that's definitely my deal. I laugh when I read descriptions on integration to fives, because I'm going, that's just hilarious. And I say hilarious because I'm like, when is that going to happen? When am I going to sit down and be like, oh, I'm content, I'm going to go away off to an island and just live it? But then at the same time, I think about it, I'm going to go away to an island and just live it? Oh, I'm going to be doing so much surfing. Like, that would be so much fun. Like, swim around, fishing, like the fun one, like not like the boring lake fishing. Come on, guys. Like, it's going to be great. And, you know, like making sandcastles all day. Like, yes. Make a fort. What? I feel like such a kid. Disintegration, though. I made YouTube videos where I describe disintegration. It's weird. It's the weirdest experience. And I think it's the biggest sign as a 7 that people don't always see. For me, I'm actually the most disconnected from my anger, even though I kind of feel anger all the time. Or like when I feel it, it's there, but it's like repressed in a weird sense. And I say that because, like, my only source of anger is 1, because my 7 disintegrates to 1. And what I'm trying to get at is that people assume that since I'm always happy-go-lucky, that I can't really just take it serious, or I'm not actually taking life seriously. But I'd argue it's the opposite. I'm like this because I take life way too seriously, so I overcompensate by being this comedic, humorous person. I don't try to take life too, like, because I try not to express that a lot. Like, my external is not the same as my internal. So as I try to navigate the world, I'm always giving off this vibe that I'm like, oh, everything's great, everything's fun. But inside, I'm seriously, like, just criticizing myself constantly. And I'm going, like, no, we're going to be better. We're going to work harder. We're going to keep fighting. Like, it's never, even though the process of expressing that is difficult, I think that's just very automatic for me at this point. I don't have that kind of moment where I sit and think. I know, like, when I get really pissed off and frustrated, that 1 kicks in, and I start, like, all those little things that have inside come out. And it's getting really awkward when I do that, because it disrupts the room, definitely. And I'm not against disrupting a room. Like, if I can cause the chaos, I will, because I'm that kind of like wild card type. But when I do disintegrate, I get very critical of all my criticalness of myself. I can project it out to other people, and I would kind of dissect your existence for who you are and what you are, and if you're worth it. And the thing is as I'm doing that, I'm doing the exact same thing to me. Like, these are things I've said to myself to move forward. And it's such a negative aspect. Like, it's like, for example, like, I've had situations, and I think my mom's the only one who can just, like, trigger me in that quick sense, because she knows just what buttons to push. When she called me out for being an alcoholic, and me being, like, angry about that, feeling insulted, I took one of my bottles of Patron, and I put it on my bed, like, near my bed, and I didn't drink for a month just to prove it. You know, I was so frustrated. I was like, no, I'm going to be super disciplined. I'm not going to have any alcohol. I'm not going to have any, like, bad foods. I'm going to be strictly vegetables and healthy and, like, cholesterol low, like, just to say that I've done it, just to be perfect. It's funny being a frustration type, like, being exactly that kind of person. Like, have this idealistic concept of the world and dealing with it the way that I am. I think my biggest issue with myself and with towards others is that I will perpetually not be seen as serious, and that's fine. I think I've made peace with it. Like back to MBTI, like as an ENFP, like never being taken seriously is kind of a curse that we have and we go through. I don't know about the other types, probably not. But I mean, coupled with the 7 and being like happy-go-lucky and chill and then all that good stuff, I really don't think that it's going to be changing anytime soon. I did appreciate the advice that somebody said in their 40s and 50s that things do get better. And I really believe that too. I think that the future holds a lot of my answers. And I think that eventually the mind will adapt again. And, or at least my mind will adapt again, and we'll just make it happen. I really don't think that everything lasts forever. Nothing in this world is permanent, if that makes sense. And why I say that, I've rationalized it in the sense that because nothing is permanent, then I can't let myself feel like so strong to things. I don't have to, because things will eventually change. So why would I stick here and be consumed by the nostalgia of the throwbacks that doesn't really do anything for me, when I can just look forward and say that this is going to happen later and I should be fine as long as there's a tomorrow. And it's weird because it kind of has like a procrastinative vibe to it, whereas like as long as it's tomorrow, we should be fine. So I don't really know if I'm being effective in that sense. All I know is that my viewpoint is this, and that's just how I move around with life. I remember talking with a 9, and it was really cool because we kind of shared similarities in that sense. I mean, I shared it with my other positive types, like the 2s and the 9s, but specifically with the 9s for this particular where I'm going with this this topic is we talked about how we didn't really need to, like, no, there's always this pressure where you have to be the best in your 20s or something, but then no one really is, because you're assuming like the legends to be that way, or we assume that we are all that way as well, but that's like unnecessary pressure. And this 9 was telling me that, like, why do you have to do that when you can just be amazing and age beautifully, or age like a dignified person, like fine wine? And it actually kicked into me. I'm going, well, I mean, I love wine. So if you want to get my attention, to be like, oh, so, you know, iced tea, but they go slutty iced tea, and I'm going, oh, then you have me. Okay, I'm listening. So yeah, when he said age like fine wine, I'm going, you know what? Yes, you're completely right, because it helps my viewpoint, my perspective to be a lot less intense, because then I know that the future holds well. And it's like, why? How can you just believe that? What if the future sucks? What if you die tomorrow and all that stuff? I'm like, well, okay, if I died tomorrow, then at least I fought as hard today to make sure that things worked out. And I can't let myself feel that fear. I feel like fear holds me back from living. And I feel like, and the thing is it's very real for me. I do get afraid. The moments that I do acknowledge its presence, but I feel like I'm chasing to the point where death is no longer a fearful concept to me, because if death means rest, then it means I work twice as hard to earn that death. If that makes sense, everybody. I'm not, you guys have to roll with me on the rationalizations here, but that's kind of how it is. When it comes to being angry, like, I'll just like let it out, burst it, and then like the next day I'm like, you know what, we're gonna let it go because it's a new day, it's a new life. We still got things going. I don't know if I'm trying to sound inspirational or something, because my inspirational concept, to me, I feel like there's a disconnect, because I know there are coaches who talk like this, coaches who tell you and motivate you, but for me, I just live that life. So I don't know if I'm giving you accurate advice, because this is how my Enneagram personality makeup is. Like, I'm predisposed to think like this because of my circumstances in my life. So I'm not going to insist that my advice is actually effective, in a sense. Like, I don't believe it to be. I just think that I'm just sharing my experiences, and that's how we're going to go with this. I don't really see it as anything else. Of course, if you guys listening do take it that way, then that's cool, because I mean, for fellow 7s out there, I feel like you guys are going to be able to relate to me when it comes to my viewpoints. When it comes to being optimistic and rationalizations and all that good stuff, you guys will be able to get where I'm coming from. Another funny thing that I brought up was the difference of wing 6 and wing 8. for a while, people actually online typed me as Wing 8 because apparently I was less dramatic and I would talk like a practical, down to earth type of kind of concept. I mean, I did. It's just that like I don't. I mean, then again, I'm not an SX7, right? So I always look for the immediate application of ideas. Like if it's usable, then fine. You know, like if it's usable, if I can actually have that fun now, then and work it at the same time, like why not? If that business idea is gonna get me the profits, why not? It's always been my deal. But then the Wing 6 thing to me is like that reliance on the loyalties of others, the networking, the social connectivity, the fear of losing my connection to people. I know I've always had backups upon backups upon backups of things. I remembered when I was a kid, like I would treat people as tools, and I admit that I really do. I take responsibility for that. There was no excuse for what I did. Not that I totally messed anyone's life, to be honest. I really do hope not. But I'm not a warm person, if that makes sense. And I don't know if other sevens relate to this, but I personally don't. Like, I'm just really happy all the time and joyous, but I don't give off this thing that I'm actually warm. And the thing is like, I like to look at everything as a business transaction. And so it's really hard for me to get down and gritty with the whole, like, raw emotional concept, because to me, I feel like that's a tool that I can use. Which can rub people the wrong way, and I definitely understand that if it does, I definitely understand why a person might feel kind of awkward with it. So I don't usually share that, but for the sake of this podcast episode, I will, because we're trying to share vulnerabilities, which is so uncomfortable. Like, why do we do this? I have to say, look, thinking about it now, entering the type community, talking type, you sacrifice your private feelings. You sacrifice that side for the sake of the theory. If anyone understands what I mean, because to even move forward in this kind of subject, in this area of knowledge, school of thoughts, and whatever, you have to share you. You have to share what makes you tick and what pisses you off and what doesn't. Because if you don't, then how will others relate and how will others understand the concept? So that's what I'm doing. I tell myself, this is me actually telling myself back so that I can actually kind of feel good about it, because I don't know if you guys get it with my tone of voice or anything, because I am talking pretty quickly, that I do feel really nervous and I do feel really awkward. Because, I mean, I've had my mom call me out, be like, oh, you're just not an approachable person. Like, you don't give that vibe that you are. And got me thinking, maybe because I'm not approachable because I'm the one that's doing the approaching. And I remember with the Wing 6, Wing 8, like, people, if you assume that Wing 8 makes you more assertive, I would tell you you gotta have to reread or restudy the things, because being a 7 is a 7. Regardless of your wings, you are an assertive type. There's going to be moments there's a hesitation involved, but when the job needs you to, like, show up and talk to a person, you betcha I will. If there's moments where people assume, like, oh, you're just trying to act tough, I mean, it's not hard. Just remove the fear. What's hard about that? And that's like so I don't know, like, sometimes it's just kind of funny to me, because it gives me this like, it makes me sound edgy, and I'm not trying to be edgy. It's just that I that's what I sound like, that's what I do. And so I don't know, like, other 7s, do you guys relate to that, where you just, like, move forward and you go, yeah, I'm not scared. I mean, I do like amusement parks and pushing my fear to the limit. Sometimes I'll watch scary things just to, like, test how fast I'm going to reframe it right away. Be like, oh, no, everything is good. Like, I'm always trying to do that. It's what you do when you want to do it. And, when it comes to relationships, oh, man, I would say it's really funny. If I like you, you're going to know. I'm not going to dilly-dally. I'm not going to hide anything. Right now, I'm way too busy to even tell myself that the shop is open. Like, the shop is closed, everybody. The man is busy. But if I am interested, I don't do the games. I'm sorry, I don't. I really don't see the point in that. I don't see the point in, ooh, let's feel and see if we're going to do something. I'm like, no, I'm here. I got stuff to do. You look interesting. Maybe our lives can fit. If it doesn't, then that's too bad. I hope we can still be friends. Let's move forward. And that's the thing, though. Like, I want the foundation to be friends, if that makes sense. Because I don't want to lose a person for the sake of just those tough feelings. I don't like doing all or nothing kind of situations. It doesn't make sense to me, actually. That whole concept of all or nothing, I don't get it. Why be all or nothing when you can have like 1,000 relationships over such shallow things that you can call upon when you need it? I mean, I can always have tomorrow to find that person who's going to take it all. But for the moment, why do I have to gamble? But the thing is, it's funny because it's like, oh, taking risks. I love taking risks. But I'm the type of guy that, like, before you bungee jump, I calculate the distance first. Or there's a safety net at the bottom. Like, that's kind of how it is. Like, I don't just drop everything. It's never been an all eggs in one basket. I do not get that. For anybody who is a 7, you're probably an SX guy, type of person. You have to, like, tell me how that feels good for you guys, because I don't. Like, I've talked to a fellow ENFP. She's an SX4, and you know who you are if you're listening. But you know, she has this whole all or nothing concept when it comes to relationships, and I'm going, I don't get that. But then, like, at the same time, you know, if I commit, I commit. You know, like, I can do the endurance thing, because at the end of the day, I want the white picket fence, the mortgage, and the freshly cut lawns every Sunday morning. Like, let's make it happen, right? Like, let's do it. Let's do the whole, you know, grounded stuff. Because to me, the act of maintaining, or the process of the maintenance or sustainable energy is so attractive to me, even though it's hard for me to maintain as a person, because like, I'm just super jumpy. You know, I don't see it going anywhere in that sense. But I can still crave it like a normal person, you know? So, yeah, like, man, I didn't think I was going to babble for, 36 minutes long already? Dang. I went for it. Yeah, I remember, like, I went through so many topics. Man, this is hilarious, and I think looking back. I guess I have one little tad bit about sevens and assertiveness. Like, I'm not against showing up and just being myself, if that makes sense. Like, people have mentioned how I can be abrasive at some times, and abrasive in the sense that because I'm still there, like, you can call me out, you can do all these things, and I don't leave. Like, I don't just withdraw. I can't. I don't think I can do that. If you call me out, I'm gonna go at you. And I may not be, like, I'm not an SE user, so I'm not, like, gonna throw down with, like, volitional force or anything. But it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, because it's not like the other option of, like, moping and crying. Like, what am I gonna do with that? Nothing. So I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, it's, oh, man. It's kind of funny to me. I remember, like, situations where something is called out and I'm not happy with it. I don't care how old you are. I don't care, you know, if you have a position of some sort or whatever. I'm showing up and I'm telling you. I think that's why I ended up having relationships with people who are managers and supervisors in my past. Like, a lot of I actually tend to befriend people in power a lot. Because, and I think I personally don't want the leadership role. I think that I function better as that wild card type, where call me when you need it. I don't really want to hop in and be expected to do that. It doesn't work. I don't think that works for me, because the pressure is kind of, I would say, limiting, because I'm busy. I'm moving around all the time. I don't want to do that. But if you need me, I'm there. So, like, it's kind of that kind of deal. And like, literally my references are still managers and that I'm actually still in contact with. Like, I still talk to them. I'm still chill with them and everything. I remembered when I first joined Typology Discord, and I immediately targeted the mod team right away. Like, I didn't settle for just the people around me. I was like, no, we're gonna talk to you guys because you guys know what's up, or seemingly know what's up, and so we're just gonna have this discussion, and I'm not backing down. You know, like, I'm gonna have this convo with you, and we'll see where it goes. What's funny is I know it can come off really weird. I guess I give off the vibe too that can be kind of creepy. Because it's just so upfront, like I just show up and be like, hey, what's up? I have this and I want this from you. But I mean, I am coming from a good place. I guess I do want to reiterate that. Like, I'm not trying to scare anybody. Like, I really don't. Because I'm just here for the investment. I want to know if you're worth dropping 2 cents with like I want to know if I can call on you if I need you. And the thing is I wouldn't know if we don't have some kind of sustained connection, if that makes sense. How can I have an investment come back if the investment is stagnant, right? Like, it doesn't, to me, like, the math doesn't work. So, like, I like generating networks. I like having a lot of people on my world. And at the same time, I don't like them to be, I mean, how do you manage having a whole bunch of relationships? Because you don't keep it deep. You keep everything shallow. And I don't know how other people take it, but that's kind of how I do it, and I haven't had a problem with it either. I really don't. Just like, oh, how do you deal with, like, I feel like to me, I would cry more for the lack of investments, I think. Like, if I don't have a backup plan, I'm like, no, why did I do it without a backup plan? Why did I go for it and not have a plan? What is this? And I think that's what they don't understand. As a 7, I'm still a head type. I'm constantly thinking. I don't have but I don't have an internal monologue necessarily. I would say that's relatable to like 5s, and any of the introverted types, or the more internally focused types. Sorry, but just because I don't doesn't mean I'm not strategizing constantly. Like, I would say I'm a plotter, and I don't mean that in a bad way. If I'm walking to a bank, I'm going to plan out my way to the bank. I'm going to plan out who I'm talking to. I'm going to plan out, like, where I'm going to place my wallet in my pocket. Like, it's just all conscious. I don't really see, like, an alternative, if that makes sense. Like, in driving, I always have a backup plan. I always have a backup this, have a backup that, because how else am I going to enjoy the cake if I know I'm going to die the next day? That doesn't make sense. I'm going to work out so I can have good cake. Hats off to that joke by Gabriel Iglesias, for any of you guys, It's like, why do you eat cake? Like, why do you have Diet Coke? So I can have regular cake. I love it. I absolutely do. I love it. Like, I love just that little, like, trade-off in that sense. Like, why do this when you could do this and then you can have them both? I mean, come on. It's that. And, like, I feel like desiring right away the thing, knowing my impulsivities back in the day hasn't given me solutions. I mean, come on. Like, that's why I'm not going to do it. So it's just funny to me that this is my relationship with life. I know people keep saying, like, oh, I wonder what it's like to be a 7. If you're down with having a hard time feeling sad, I mean, people say, like, that's a good thing, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like there's a value in being raw with your emotions that I don't usually have, or I don't really relate to. So it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around that. I love it when my friends will be like, you're being too negative. I'm like, no, I'm just being critical. Because seriously, like, for all honest, I'm not being negative. If I'm disintegrating, I'm just criticizing you because I want you to solve it. I want you to have a solution. I'm not going to sit here and settle with it. It's actually probably why I'm venting, because I'm pissed off and I don't want to sit there. Like, it's that kind of thought process. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little, I don't even know what this episode is. I was just babbling on 7s. You guys, like, I feel like if I do get a conversation with another type, it'll probably be a lot more organized, I would say. It's probably a lot more, less chaotic, but I mean, come on. Like, you've been warned it was going to be chaotic. So I thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for enjoying this little moment with me. It's like, wow, I went this far. And yeah, so again, yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for listening. You can find me in a bunch of different mediums. I'm always around, but I'm always moving. So if I don't reply right away, that's not on you. It's not your fault. But it also doesn't sound like a me problem either. Because, come on, life is moving forward, and that's what we do. It really is. And for all you sevens out there, I think it's probably why we don't see a lot of sevens online, because it's hard. Why are we going to spend our time online? For me, I do this because I actually enjoy, babbling. I enjoy this whole kind of deal. I think that's a reason I feel people kind of forget, like, why are you here? Why do you do this? Because I enjoy it. I mean, that's I derive pleasure out of this, and there's a stimulation concept to this. Like I'm right now actually I'm listening to Lizzo, like while I'm doing this podcast, and I'm listening to her song like Soulmate and Juice and like Good as Hell and like all that good stuff, because a lot of her music is pumping up, telling yourself to just be strong and take it. You're by yourself, but what's the problem? What's there to fear in this world? And I like listening to music like that, because music like that gets me to continue on with my perspectives. It gets me to have this continuous sustainable energy that I require to last the week. It's a thing. So again, thank you guys for listening. I can't believe I'm saying this again and again and again, but I really do appreciate the listeners. I just hope you guys, if you've lasted this long, I do want to say that I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. I really do. I feel like you guys are, like the 70%. 30% is the content creating for me, 70% is the people that I actually enjoy babbling to. If that makes sense. It's a trade-off, right? I feel like it's pretty good. So you guys have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the week. I don't know when the next episode is going to come out, obviously, but thank you guys again. Thanks. Bye.